Now, good evening, my fellow Ambazonians. We apologize for the late start. We get some technical difficulties for connect. We for different country them. For the technical people then for connect it will be a little bit difficult. So we apologize for the very late start. Una good evening for all our big papa them and our big mommy them, for all our uncle them and our auntie them, for all our big brother them, our big sister them, for all our neighbor them, all Ambazonia picking them, all our people them for across the globe, all Ambazonians them for all over the world. We salute and say una good evening. Today, the story for house is over plenty. We go to talk today about the new president where the American people, they don't elect them. That election will just take place for America. We're going to talk about that election. We're going to talk about Oga, the new, the Vice President Joe Biden, where they don't elect him for, make it take office for become the new president for America. We're going to talk about, we're going to look for America, their new, how a foreign policy will build and how a foreign policy it will work with the Ambazonian people that they fight for gain recognition and for get a free homeland. We go to get this story with one of our big brother. We did for that side for Joe Biden the country too. Our brother, we don't stay for that country too. It be picking for now Ambazonia. We don't become an American citizen. So we go enter for that story. But before we want to go for that story, make we start first with the small thing away they happen before we introduce our big brother and I go be our guest expert today. For story where they make news today, we all man don't hear, we don't hear say the former president, the man where na he fixed Ghana before Ghana don't can be what he did today. So the man where na he clean Ghana, Oga JJ Rawlings. Today so we don't hear say Oga JJ Rawlings. It's time for this ground. It don't finish. Say today, Mr. Rawlings, he did for hospital. He not even stay. He just die. We eye close. So, on behalf of the governing council of Ambazonia, on behalf of the Ambazonian people, them we send our condolences for the people them for Ghana, for Oga Rawlings' family, and for all the people them where they be related to JJ Rawlings. We also want to send our good heart for waiting Mr. Rawlings he don't do for keep Ghana straight and for honor a legacy. Also we'll be very happy for the kind work we don't live on for a legacy, we don't live on for the Ghana people them. And today they get a better country because it be really stand up for lay that foundation, just like what place where Ambazonia did now. We also hear say the colonial dictator for La République du Cameroon, a big sister don't die. This life is a very wonderful thing. The colonial dictator for La République du Cameroon, with all the massacre where they take place for Ambazonia, with all the killings, all the die them, the accident them, even for your own country, with all the country where they spoil, where they scatter, that man never come off outside. He don't hide. He never ever make statement for outside. He only make that for Twitter. Now only today, where they say sister don't die, now where they see poor BI face. Wonders. But that one is fine. Say now we know say he today alive. Say I don't see that his sister die. He to go to check sense. So now the two main event and the two main small news and that who one just leave and for one and no say now what did happen that the day one can do analysis. We can do analysis for that one. Today, the big talk today. Now the one we bring for all we for here. Today we go to examine the foreign policy of the new United States President-elect, Oga Joe Biden. We go, the person where he don't join with today for we forget this story. Now our big brother, and this big brother, he did for that side for Joe Biden, the country. Now person we don't stay there, now person we don't study the system. Now one of our brother, all man with we know what they call and say cryptocurrency. Yes. Now he be the chairman for Ambazonia cryptocurrency, where they call and say Ambacoin. Now he be one of our brother them. He come out, he background, he be big, he be na person where he work for the banking industry, for the financial market. So he understand the importance of international system. So the story we will go to get them today. Now our big brother, Comrade Emmanuel, big boss, the chairman for Amber cryptocurrency, Ambacoin. Oga, welcome for say you don't join me for this story for today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lucas. Thank you so much. I'm very pleased to be on your platform today. I hope you can hear me very well.
We can hear you clearly.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I'm going to equally start by echoing what you had just said regarding J.J. Rawlings. He was a pillar in Africa. It is thanks to him single-handedly that Ghana is where it is today. He led Ghana during a time of turmoil, and we're really very blessed to have had him walk the surface of Africa. Africa has lost a giant today, and it is our hope that his voice will continue to echo throughout Africa, that his dream may be realized. And it's a pleasure to be on your platform today to join in this conversation.
This is not actually my platform. This is the Ambazonia people's platform. So we are live on ACN TV. Uh, let's get started. You are the chairman of Ambazonia cryptocurrency called the Ambacoin. You are a banker. You are in the financial sector. You also someone who takes time to really study the U.S. foreign policy in great detail. Sir, let's start with a funny question. Would your president, Donald Trump, the current president, will he concede?
That is a very interesting question, and before I get to that question, I would like to equally say one or two things regarding the Ambazonia Treasury. The Ambazonia Treasury is the issuer of Ambacoin, just like any other central bank. We issue Ambacoin, and we've also worked on other methods to raise funds to support the revolution. And before we get to some details in that background, this was actually an initiative of the Egg of Sea. The Egg of Sea approached a few of us to put this together to help support the revolution as a whole, and equally plan the organization towards when we get to the governing phase of events when that time comes. To get to your question, so in effect, we've issued the Ambacoin. We've worked with other institutions within the revolution to try to support them in one way or the other. To get to your question at this point, unfortunately, knowing who our president is, knowing who Donald Trump is, there is much doubt as to whether he would concede. But whether he leaves office or not is a whole other question. We do not currently believe that there is anything that he will be able to do, whether legally or otherwise, that would keep him from being in office on January 20th. So on January 20th, it would be fair to assume that he's going to be walking out of the White House, never to come back again.
Force Mr. Trump out of the White House?
It is going to be difficult. The one thing that the U.S. has tried to portray has been that we are a democratic nation, that we respect the rule of law, and that we have institutions that are in place to guarantee processes that have been set for generations and hundreds of years. And those processes, because they are in place, because they're institutions, it is very likely that they will be followed. We do not currently see any kind of legal machinations that will be done that will prevent the current president from not going out of the White House. Now, if you look at the way that the president-elect Joe Biden was elected to office, the, Donald J. Trump would have to win at least four other states. The results of four other states will have to be reversed in order for him to qualify. You would have the state of Nevada, for example. You would have the state of Arizona, the state of Michigan, and probably the state of Georgia. All of those results will have to be overturned for Trump to be able to win these elections. And there is no way that we think that, whether legally or otherwise, that the U.S. would want to portray itself that way to overturn that election. So it is all said and done. Beginning January 21st, you would have a new individual in the White House.
Mr. Trump has been very divisive.
Yes, that is
In his,
true, and that has been the hallmark of his administration.
he's been very degrading to immigrants. He's been even to different people, different faith. So you know, that being said, what is going to be different with the new president, Joe Biden?
There is a word that we all seek to try to be presidential, and especially for those people that are in positions of office, and that decorum has come to be expected even in the way that the framers framed the law. There were certain things that they didn't police because they had expected that individuals in that position will act with a certain level of decorum, will act with a certain personality, will act with a certain level of respect for the office. Unfortunately, they never anticipated or expected an individual like Donald Trump, who came into office with the kind of background that he had, been in the entertainment industry, running and operating real estate and hotels, and all of a sudden, not even believing that he was going to win the elections himself, and then finding himself in that position, and then insulting individuals with disability, insulting individuals that have served in our military, insulting, I mentioned the handicap, insulting women, and just about any and everybody, including institutions. He's sought to make sure that everyone that disagreed with him got an insult, or even, as you can see, even at the beginning of the elections themselves, when the Republican parties had over 16, 17 candidates. At that time, he created a name for each one of the candidates as he slowly pushed them out of the contest. So yes, that is continued. We should expect to see that on this president. So going back to what we expect to see Biden to do, Joe Biden, on the other hand, he's been in office since he was at the age of 28, 29, when he first went to Congress. So we've really known him. We've seen how he's acted with class. He's acted with respect. He's treated individuals with the level of decorum that you would expect from someone of his caliber and someone in his office. Um, Donald Trump, if you recall, he called the entire continent of Africa, that is made up of a bunch of shithole countries. We should not expect to see that from the president elect. The president elect has been in office. We do know that he has a penchant for releasing information that may be classified. He speaks a little bit too quickly, and sometimes may not necessarily think on his feet. So that is the only other place that we would expect that he may make some disclosures that are not supposed to be said in public. But besides that, we should expect him to treat countries with decorum. We should expect him to treat countries with respect, with dignity, and work with other countries and persons as equals on the same status quo. So that should really not be expected from from the president elect.
All right, we've seen about Mr. Trump, taking some bold steps to basically withdraw the United States participation in major international events and international institutions. Mr. Trump pulled the U.S. out of the World the World Health Organization, pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Agreement, pulls the U.S. out of the United Nations Human Rights Council, right? And basically focused on the more domestic issues than foreign policy. So I want to ask you this: what is going to be different? What will be the difference between a Trump administration foreign policy approach with international institutions, global order, versus a Trump approach to international institutions and global order?
That is a great question. Even before Donald Trump came to prominence in about 1987, he single-handedly took an ad. Being a businessman, he took an ad on the Wall Street Journal and accused the U.S. and its allies of having accused the U.S. allies of having to pretty much lean too much on the U.S. and push towards an isolationist policy. He looked at the U.S. as having a lot of other countries feeding off of it. Looked at the U.S. as pushing an agenda where the U.S. was pretty much going to shrink. At the beginning of his administration, when you had the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, he initially
Yeah.
submitted a budget that cut the foreign service budget by almost by a third. So what that meant was that that was going to be a cut in staffing. That was going to be a reduction in aid, such as the USAID, United States development money. He was going to reduce a lot of the other projects that the U.S. does to exercise its soft power, such as cultural and maybe food aid to certain places. You notice that when the disaster happened in Lebanon, for example, traditionally the U.S. will send aid and will send individuals there to try to help with events that are going on in places like that, just to try to support. But in this case, nothing happened. So, and not just only that, this president has gone on to, when it comes to like Africa, there has been very little engagement. So what that has equally done is it's reduced. Traditionally, whether we liked it or not, the US has played the role of leadership in the rest of the world. In both conflict and non-conflict areas, they've been present there to provide some form of leadership. So the world had continued to look on the US to continue to provide that leadership in so many regards. Take, for example, the current pandemic that is spreading across the world. There hasn't been any concerted effort to create, to bring about everyone on the table, all international participants on the table, to take a measure that will be used to safeguard all efforts that are going on around the world. Instead, every country, every city, every state has been left to its own whims and caprices. So what that has done, it's created a lot of disjointedness in approach to solving this current crisis, the COVID crisis that is affected, COVID-19 crisis that have affected the rest of the world. Now, if we have to look at the Biden approach, I will call on all of us to try to look at what happened 8 years before the Trump administration, because at the time, Joe Biden, President-elect Joe Biden, was the Vice President of the United States. So we can expect that U.S. policy in the next several years, at least for the next 4 years, will mirror what happened 8 years prior, with a little bit of Joe Biden's touch to it. Joe Biden had served in the Senate for several years in the foreign committee. So with that, we believe that he would likely have a lot of foreign policy experience and would know exactly what is happening, not just in our continent, but equally within the rest of the world. So we should expect what the Obama doctrine was that when you have crisis, you should bring about a, a U.S. team that will form a coalition with everybody else in the rest of the world, and together with that coalition, will use a multinational approach to solving those crises. Um, So we should expect that kind of formula to continue to continue to be the approach that this administration, the Biden elect administration, will pursue.
When it comes to issues of self-determination and issues of gross human rights violation, the Trump administration has taken almost a very passive approach, even with regards to the Ambazonian issue. At first, it was, they looked at this as, this is an issue where the state, the colonial states should, should engage, should engage. Then he decided to, at some point, to pull some strings on the colonial state. They decided to, cut their military aid, decided to, to suspend Cameroon from I think it's the from AGOA. So they've taken some steps. They've also taken steps to make sure that they can place sanctions on some key colonial authorities. Those are the steps they have taken, but they have not taken any major concrete steps. As you've said, there has been no concerted effort. Why has this been so lacking when it comes to when lives are being lost? A war is being declared on unarmed people of Ambazonia, uh, when more than 500 villages have been razed down completely. And the United States has all these statistics. Why?
You make a very good point there. Very, 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 very good point. So the Trump administration has pursued a very a foreign policy that is very restrictive in terms of its involvement in the rest of the world. They have generally been more reactive in their approach in what the way that they've handled certain conflict. Like I mentioned earlier, the Trump administration has been more of a withdrawal, sticking to follow the policy which was pushed at the earlier point in its administration as America first. So in that regard, they've disregarded the fact that the rest of the world has come to a place where a single company, a single country cannot be an island. It has to operate in its entirety, recognizing that there are several other countries that exist in the world, and recognizing that without the rest of the world, America cannot continue to succeed. So it's not been an engaging administration. If you, on the one hand, that has worked very well into a certain level for diplomats that are located in the African continent. The Trump administration has focused more on. Before I go there, let me equally say this, that a lot of the foreign policy of this country in the last 4 years seem to have been driven by Donald Trump, DJ Trump himself, his personal interest, as opposed to the interest of the country. So as a result of
Okay.
that, his foreign policy has been more tilted towards countries where he has personal interest, from Russia, Ukraine engagement to Ireland, Scotland, and then just very little in Central Europe, and then the African continent as a whole has just been totally ignored. So because of that focus on these areas in mostly Europe and parts of Asia and the Middle East, the ambassadors that are located, U.S. ambassadors that are located in the African countries, have had a little bit more leeway because of that non-interest in the African continent. For example, Trump himself has not made any effort to visit Africa and listen to its issues and try to learn about them, and see what the U.S. government can bring its might to bear on some of these issues. Instead, he dispatched his wife, and most of the visits that his wife did, if you look at her itinerary, it is more focused towards travel and vacation wise than actual solid policy issues and events that will change or alter courses of events economically, politically, geopolitically in Africa. So that gives us all the impression that it's been one that has not been of any interest. Having said that, the ambassadors that are located in most countries in Africa have taken upon themselves to continue to pursue what the historic U.S. policy towards Africa has been, which essentially has been one of engagement in regards to food security, engagement in the military security, like trying to prevent the outbreak of war with conflict, and seeking to empower the existing governments militarily so they can fight by themselves, do the work of fighting terrorism, and in a very small respect, social events, social issues such as maybe religion regarding the push for abortion, and also not just abortion rights, and what we call here, I'm looking for a term that is not, that has to do with sexual orientation, to be more political. So those are the kinds of events that the US have tried to push in Africa or done in Africa. So but what has happened in the last decade has been the fact that China has come in and has become a competitor, a huge competitor. And in order for China not to completely become very solid in Africa, US policy has been more towards trying to make sure that China does not basically take over Africa and exercise to exercise restraint in its exploitation of Africa. So there hasn't been any concerted effort. I know a lot of people, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. I would say this before we even proceed.
Go
Gallup,
ahead.
Gallup is thank you. Gallup is an organization that does polling around the world every year. And one of the questions that they ask around the world was the favoritism, how individuals favor the US in terms of how well the Trump administration was doing with regards to each and every country. And what they found out, the results were the lowest since they started doing this, lowest in terms of the fact that they came out, I believe it was about 30% favor what the US was doing around the world. But for some strange reason, it was highest in sub-Saharan Africa. In Northern Africa, it was actually lower, like at 15%. But in Sub-Saharan Africa, they were getting results such as 16% in that report. So the question was, why will the Trump administration get such favorable results in Sub-Saharan Africa and the rest of the world? They were not favorable at all. So that equally goes to show why there has been that huge support, especially huge support for the Trump administration against the incoming Biden administration in Sub-Saharan Africa. So what the polls went on to explain was that generally Sub-Saharan Africa has looked to the U.S. for just about any and everything. So whether it was the
Right.
Trump administration that was there, or it was any other administration, they were likely to favor the U.S. as a whole. And then the other thing had to do with religion. So what the Trump administration pushed was the fact that they were the guarantor of the Christian faith, so that the Democrats were coming into power, and a lot of things were going to change, including the event of pushing um, for same sex marriages, pushing for abortion rights, and that will, in effect, be some of the things that the that some of our communities do not really admire. So as a result of that, there was that huge support for Trump. But what we should realize is that no matter who sits on the throne in the U.S. presidency, in the office of the U.S. presidency, the U.S. objectives, just like any other country, will always be in favor of what the U.S. wants to see happen in certain regions, in certain countries, protecting its interests. So in this regard, we should not see a tremendous shift. But what the Biden administration is expected to do is they've always tried to uphold, be more engaged. If you take, for example, when the Obama administration was in power, they made so many visits to Africa. They met so many presidents. They tried to seek to understand what was happening in Africa. It was under that Obama administration that there was the passage of so many rules, including that helped to funnel in additional development money into Africa as a whole. But in this administration, instead, they started to cut all of those funding by as much as the first budget that went in with the Trump administration was as much as 20%. But thankfully, Congress controls the purse, so the Congress voted against it. So, which is one of the things that we should learn from this democracy, the U.S. democracy, is the fact that
What is it? What is it that you think that we should learn from this, from the way the U.S. conduct itself and the way they conduct their foreign policy? What is it?
exactly. And before we go into that subject holistically, one of the things that we should really learn from this particular example is just the fact that the Congress controls the purse. So the administration has to come to Congress and explain exactly what their priorities for the period, for the budget season is. And Congress goes through that budget and then votes off of it, votes on it. Sometimes they would include other projects. The administration will then execute on that budget. So in effect, Trump cannot just wake up in the morning and decide. There was a there was a rule that was there was a budget statement or agreement that was had in which I think that related to AIDS, helping at that time, especially sub-Saharan Africa towards Southern Africa, had numbers that were about 20%, 15% of its population actually had events that had to do with AIDS. So the Bush administration, but this was all created by Clinton administration. But under the Bush administration, I think it was about the first month in 2002 that passed over the $15 billion. Sorry, it was $8 billion, but it was supposed to spread across 5 years that will help to support those events. So under the Donald Trump administration, nothing has happened. There hasn't been such effort where we actually see action on some event that is identified economically or otherwise, that a statement is made to help create an event that would actually help people somewhere else. But that happened thanks to the Bush administration. That happened thanks to the Clinton administration. And under the Obama administration, you equally had events such that equally help in so many regards that we can go into details further to help the African continent. That's why we believe that with the Biden administration, it will be more engaging in terms of human rights. Now, really quickly, you've had a situation where the Ambazonian people have gone out there and protest. You've had situations where there've been videos and audios and pictures and everything else that have been presented to this administration, to the Trump administration, of things that are happening in Ambazonia. So nothing has really happened. Part of the reason why nothing has happened is that whole disengagement of and no lack of interest in Africa by the Trump administration and Trump himself, especially. If you have an administration that turns around and calls an entire continent shithole countries, thank you. That tells you the approach that they will have vis-a-vis that leaders of that continent. So we should expect that with the Biden administration, it'll be more engaging on levels of equals, and we should equally expect that with the Biden administration, because the Obama administration, for example, if you look at what had happened in Sudan, the Obama administration was deeply engaged to the extent that all of the atrocities that were happening in Sudan um, were halting. There was conversations that were going on within the parties. But under the under the Trump administration, nothing happened. There has not been any progress with regards to that conflict. So that our example as Ambazonians has not just been the only example that has happened, but it's been that whole disengagement of this administration.
So,
They've
so
only
should we consider this as a point of luck, that we're moving from a disengaged administration to probably an engaging new administration? Secondly, in the past, the United States, the world has looked upon the United States as the giver of hope, whereby during moments where there are gross human rights violations, the United States always steps in. In places where minorities are facing probably a genocide or an unjust war, they've stepped in. We've seen in, I think Kosovo is a good case. They stepped in and they actually, provided arms to the people of Kosovo to defend themselves. We've seen the same scenario with the Kurds. The United States has provided, the same support to the Kurds. Is it What is it about the Ambazonia? Is it the Ambazonian leadership that is not being aggressive with the U.S. State Department? Is it just the way the U.S. State Department is currently structured? What is the blockade here with regards to Ambazonia?
The blockade is leadership in the US. The leadership in the US, traditionally, the United States has provided leadership for events around the world. And when the US is not acting, nobody else really acts because the US provides the path for which generally everyone else will follow. So it's
Yeah.
made a lot of countries very hesitant to make pronouncements when nothing will come out of those pronouncements. Let's take, for example, you have a situation where Ambazonia is going through this major crisis that is being inflicted by La République du Cameroon, and in a certain extent, France is behind all of that to continue to keep Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon basically as colonial states. Most of these other European states are parties to a lot of treaties that France is a part of. And most of these European states are part of the entire European Union as a whole. So a lot of times their actions are such that it will not anger or step on the foot of step on the feet of any of their other partners. So the US, being not part of the European continent, not part of a lot of the European agreements, can always act as a neutral party to this. So, but when the US is not there to provide direction, when the US is not there to provide a path, then a lot of the states do not really want to. They pay lip services to what is really happening in those regards. So, with the US back in business, a lot of the countries that are out there were all congratulating the newly elected president Biden. With the U.S.
As
being back in
as,
business,
as, as a sign of relief.
as a sign, indeed, as a sign of relief. If you can remember, even when the leaders were meeting at, I forget what conference that was, but including the Prime Minister of Canada, the Canadian Prime Minister, he was the one that was leading jokes about or against the U.S. president about how disengaged he is, and a lot of comments were said in that meeting. So, but with the U.S. being back and actually having an actual policy with regards to certain regions, with regards to certain countries themselves, then we should expect that there will be a lot more engagement because the U.S. will set the tone. As you rightfully said, the U.S. has been looked upon as the the beacon of a country that advances democracy, that advances human rights, respect for human rights, that is involved in trying to make sure that conflicts do not escalate. So with that said, we should expect that the U.S. would be more engaging in this regards and will set direction. Whether it is a direction that will sway one way or the other is yet another question. But we should expect at least some movement.
What disturbs me more than the policy that you call a policy is the rationale for the policy. The rationale for the policy. You set out 4 principles that.
It's okay. Let the studio go ahead and play that video because we are going to discuss that. It's a little bit. It's okay. So the studio, I think they were about to talk about what I think they were just talking about your expectations. What expectations we will be having. What we should expect from a Biden foreign policy, And so, studio, go ahead, play that clip because we are moving into this segment of our discussion. Go ahead and play that video clip for all of us, please.
For the policy. The rationale for the policy. You set out 4 principles that you adhere to, and then and I will go over them in a moment. Then you say on page 14, we must not become part of South Africa's problem. We must remain part of their solution. We must not aim to impose ourselves, our solutions, our favorites in South Africa. Damn it, we have favorites in South Africa. The favorites in South Africa are the people who are being repressed by that ugly white regime. We have favorites. Our loyalty is not to South Africa, it's to South Africans. And the South Africans are majority black, and they are being excoriated. It is not to some stupid puppet government over there. It is not to the Afrikaners regime. We have no loyalty to them. We have no loyalty to South Africa, to South Africans. And the fact of the matter is I listen to this rationale first of all. It is the leaders of South Africa and their people, black and white, who have the majority responsibility. They must rise to it. Well, they are rising to it. They're rising to it. The only thing left available to them with that repulsive, repugnant regime of Afrikaners there. And it's the only way they have. They've tried everything for the last 20 years. They begged, they borrowed, they crawled, and now they're taking up arms. The second thing, progress toward peace requires a timetable. Timetable, elimination of apartheid. What's our timetable? What are we saying to that repugnant regime? Are we saying you've got 20 days, 20 months, 20 years? We ask them to put up a timetable. What's our timetable? These people are being crushed. And we're sitting here with the same kind of rhetoric. The same thing we heard. We heard go slow. We heard we have to take care of the problem afterwards. We heard we can't impose.
You are totally misconstruing the testimony that I gave.
Read first.
Furthermore, Senator, let me say that I hate to hear a senator of the United States calling for violence.
I'm not calling for violence.
That's what you're doing.
I hate to hear
exactly what you're doing.
I hate to hear an administration and a Secretary of State refusing to act on a morally abhorrent point. I hate to hear this country. I'm ashamed that this country puts out a policy like this that says nothing.
All right.
State refusing to act on a morally abhorrent point. I hate to hear this country. I'm ashamed that this country puts out a policy like this that says nothing.
Now, this is Joe Biden during when blacks in South Africa were going through the most dehumanizing a system of segregation the world has never seen before during the apartheid era. Are we going to see this level of passion? Are we going to see this level of caring? Are we going to see this level of demonstration of strength and focus?
I am actually looking forward.
With what the Ambazonian people are going through?
I am actually looking forward to that. That level of passion, that level of engagement. Here is what has happened very recently. Given the background that Trump has and how he's treated, especially the minority communities in this country, from the Mexican community, Spanish, Latin American communities to the black communities in this country. And also, one would say that 100% with certainty here that it is thanks to the minority, especially the black vote in Georgia, the black vote in Michigan, and in certain and minority vote in especially the Spanish Nevada, and even in Arizona, that propel the Biden ticket to be successful. So, and there was some level of engagement with the Biden campaign, especially with first generation immigrants in the U.S. So I would expect that if he is expecting to be voted again in office for the following 4 years, that there is a little bit more engagement. That said, I think that going into the next 4 years, that there will be a lot more engagement in the issue of Ambazonia. It is not just going to be the payment of lip services, especially depending on the ambassador that is the foreign
Going to be
secretary,
appointed.
in this case, that is appointed. So the Democrats as a whole tend to have career politicians and career diplomats. These are individuals that know exactly, understand the issue, understand conflicts. So, to a certain level, I see individuals like Ambassador Tibor Nagy keeping his position, especially initially, but being empowered because he is a career diplomat. He understands the issue. Um, he had worked with the Ambassador Cohen. Together, they understand exactly what is happening in the African continent and in Ambazonia. I think that the Democratic Party as a whole tend to use these career diplomats, people that are not really just political, that are not do not have any particular self interest in service, but that have gone into government for the right reason to serve people. So I see them still being on board and being empowered, because what the Trump administration did was they never empowered these individuals to really do their job. So they were mostly on the fence, trying to weigh and see what the Trump administration was thinking. So acting within safe zones. So in these regards, they would understand exactly and know exactly what their mandate is, what their charter is, and will engage in issues based on that regards. If you look at if most administrations, especially within the US, they set policy, and the ambassadors are required to go around and act based on what that policy or what that strategy calls about given an issue. But if you have an administration that is not even engaged at all, it becomes very difficult for the people on the field to act on behalf of that government. So what they end up doing is just acting based on what the State Department policies call for, as opposed to what an engaged administration will do. So we should expect to see the Obama
So is this is
administration.
this is this is this is this why there was this flip flopping from Mr. Tibor? He flip flops in the Ambazonian case. One day he's declaring that the Ambazonian people have a right for total self determination, and that no matter what the colonial state does, they won't be able to resolve this conflict until they listen to the key desire. And he banged his I think he says fist on the table and saying that the number one desire of the Ambazonian people, which he calls them people from the northwest and southwest, is that they want to have full control over their lives, basically calling it self-determination. And then the next day he's saying, hey, the colonial state, they should give the colonial state a chance. The colonial state is the one that has the responsibility. Is that the reason why he was so flip-flopping with this issue? Because there was no clear policy?
That could explain part of the reason. When you work under an administration where it is very difficult to ascertain what the leader is thinking at any one time, it's very difficult to set policy in that regard. I think that was in 2017. There is a U.S. Diplomat that is stationed in the U.S. Embassy in London. He went on to give a presentation. This has not about Ambazonia as a whole, but to give a presentation about the need at one of the universities there. I think it was Leeds, but went on to give a presentation about the need for a coordination of events between our friends across the Atlantic in Europe and the US. And just because he said that, he was fired. So when you have, and not just only that, a lot of other you have a lot of army generals, the previous defense secretary, not the one that just recently was fired. I'm talking here about James Mattis. I'm talking about General. A lot of them, when this was a U.S. military general that was serving as national security advisor to the president, because he pushed towards a defense strategy in Iraq and Syria, and to be more engaging, he was equally fired. So when you have a situation where diplomats and administration members do not know exactly what they're doing, just based on how Trump feels in one day or the other, it is likely that such decisions can be easily construed as been attributable to that. Now, having
Okay.
said that, though, I see a more engaging America where ambassadors and diplomats are given the leeway based on the understanding of policy to do what is right, especially in the advancement of human rights, in the advancement of democracy. In that regards, I would say equally the U.S. has an act that is called Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, and there is also a related. I think this is Article 1502 in the Dodd-Frank legislation that was passed following the debacle of the economic debacle during the last economic cycle 2008. So that essentially says that if any country, let's do the Foreign Corrupt Practice Act first, that if you are a US person and you are a US business and you are engaged overseas in businesses, you cannot provide any form of bribe to influence the decision of the individual or the country that is making available that business, or the individual that is making available that business. In follow up to that as well, there is the resolution that is part of the Dodd Frank, which is an act that fall under the Patriot Act 1502. What that equally said was that all U.S. companies that are extracting resources from Africa that had to do with, take for example, tantalum, tin, there was diamond and gold, and so many other minerals, that they had to disclose the source of those minerals and how it was acquired. So by putting those kinds of restrictions on U.S. companies doing business in the African continent, it made it a little bit more challenging for them to do business by being engaged in fraudulent practice. On the other hand, the European counterparts, especially France in this regard, has been more involved in Africa because there's not so much restrictions there. So what Hillary Clinton had said in one of her speeches, I think it's 2016, U.S. and Hillary Clinton at the time, in her capacity as the
Of
foreign
state.
secretary, yeah, Secretary of State, thank you, had said was that they will engage Africa on the basis of equality, and in doing business will ensure that it is based on fairness. So when you have that approach, when I say Hillary Clinton, I'm referencing her just because we're expecting that the Obama, a lot of times when Democrats come into power, they bring in career diplomats that have potentially served in previous administrations. Unlike the Republican Party, that tends to be more very business friendly. Taking this regards, a lot of the ambassadors are appointed based on campaign contributions that are done to the party to win, to send the next elected president to office, and they get appointed as ambassadors. And when they go to those various embassies, they are pushing more of of an agenda that has to do with businesses
With business
that are
deals.
friendly in that regard. Exactly. So the Democrats tend to be more. I mean, both parties do this, but at the end of the day, when you have democratic governments, they tend to send individuals that have previously served in previous democratic governments, that understand the issue, that are career diplomats, that know what they're going there to do. So we should expect that in the case of Ambazonia, there will be engagement in terms of human rights. There'll be engagement in terms of advancing democracy. There'll be engagement in terms of aid, engagement in pushing towards bringing this conflict to an end, as opposed to lip services, playing for time, and waiting and hoping to hear what Trump is thinking.
Now let me ask you this. The conflict between Cameroon and Ambazonian has been classified as one of the most neglected conflict on the planet today. What should the Ambazonian people do to change the current classification? What should the Ambazonian people, what I mean the Ambazonian people is the political leadership of the Governing Council of Ambazonia and its partners within the revolution, what specific steps would you suggest, would you recommend for us to change this interpretation, for us to elevate the way the conflict is being perceived. Do you have any recommendations for them?
Sure. I will pivot this off of the trial approach because this is very important to our people. I will try to equally explain this in Pidgin. The trial approach was really very well coined out. What let's see. The trial
Okay.
approach
Yeah,
for
self-defense,
yeah,
internationalization, targeted diplomacy. You're correct.
thank you. I'm struggling here with the language. It's sometimes difficult to switch to Pidgin.
I thought I
I
was
did
the
not
only one
realize
that has to find a way
I
to
did not
translate
realize
from
just how
the.
difficult. I did not realize just how difficult this could be. But
You want to talk for
I,
pigeon? Talk for pigeon. Be okay. Translate.
I, I want to answer this question for Pigeon for people then because it be very important. May they understand because it requires the engagement for everyone. So the trial approach, I'll pivot. I go bring in the trial approach for explain what he would need for the DOAM. So
Okay.
President Biden they come right now for office at a time when the U.S. As a country they go through a lot, especially time where it come for do with this coronavirus event. And in addition to that, so many millions of people they don't lose their job. I think unemployment rate now they like 6.9% across the nation. So this one are the very two important events. The way then will cause the new president elect Joe Biden for be more engaged internally for try for solve for provide resolutions to this issue them. So issues the way they be overseas, they not will get a lot more attention. They not will get attention for the immediate term because the president will need to focus on this other pressing issue them. So that said, a lot of things then they turn for happen for inside the United States based on pressure, political pressure, where it be posed for the various segments them
Hotspots.
for
Yeah, for the
various
various hotspots. Yeah.
hotspots where they get for do with the various issues. And thank you, Mr. Asu. So I go recommend say in as much as some individuals they don't talk say we don't go past on certain stage of engagement with political activism. I go suggest say in order for continue for the bring our situation at the limelight of events for keeper maybe for the agenda for this administration, we will probably need for come out again like we previously did do for around the 2016-2017 time frame where we will come out en mass. We'll go put political pressure for the administration. We'll meet the various individuals, both Congress people and senators, them for try for continue for the engage them because if we not do and so, our situation will take the front agenda. Given say a lot of things in the way they don't be for the pipeline where this existing administration had not had the chance to look into that they will now be that has been transferred to the new administration.
Come back for
So
pigeon. Come back for
we have
pigeon. Don't switch back for Igbo English. Come back for pigeon.
yeah. So we will need for continue for be engaged in that regard. The next thing we were supposed for do for I mean for put that soft pressure for the new administration. The next thing we were supposed
So
for
before
do
you go forward,
now.
before you go forward, if we understand you clearly, what you suggest now say make Ambazonians them, especially the one the way they did for America. May they not wait say because Oga Joe Biden don't come in, he go just understand the Ambazonian problem. You did recommend say make all we, especially our brothers, our sisters, our papa them, our mommy the way they did for America, make the White House, in front White House, in front Congress, in front Senate. Now the place where they need for go make the real noise. Yes. Now the first thing that they talk, if we understand you correctly, they go for go make noise for day, and then you talk say make they go engage the new senators, the new members of Congress. They engage them directly because if we not take that opportunity for we for push our agenda for up, With all this palaver we will go by, then the carrier we go come carry for American government. It go take your attention. So now we get for create attention, right? Here you talk about we need for create attention. We need for create the awareness. We need for create the education. If we not call their attention, other things they go take their attention. We get you correctly?
Absolutely. And if you not call their attention, other things they will take precedence. You explain them exactly correctly. We hope now say we will get people them Ambassador Nagy made them maintain their position. However, we hope say the fee appoint people in current boss made them become ambassador where they understand under secretary made it,
Yes.
for Africa made it, where they understand the situation too, where they will continue for the exercise that kind of political pressure will be needed for make changes and see action. We understand say French diplomacy be very powerful. At the same time, every country still get its own interests where it expound them because US not generally their policy never be for go someplace take all. Their policy don't be na always for go exercise some level of partnership. Even in the Middle East, where previously where they be like oil plenty, like petrol, where they still their companies they still control that whole area. Them it is still based now on partnership, business agreements where you come in. This is how much we are getting. This is how much I am getting, and this is how much you're gonna get in this arrangement. Unlike the French, where they come in, they want time for just take all, they don't mind whether you get anything or not. They never prescribe anything. The US will be a very good business partner. If you look out for your own interest, that interest could be more for create a stable environment for business for flourish, as opposed to the French, where they instead create an unstable environment so they can take all and leave nothing behind.
So
Um,
for this one
so
we don't talk. So this one we don't talk. So now how now the first one I said now we need to create the attention within the US. The number two, we talk now about economic interest. Now how we feel project ourselves, now how we feel sell ourselves in terms we talk the one about what diplomats and we talk now the people they did for governing council of Ambazonian State Department. We talk now about the vice president of governing council of Ambazonia, where the office be also the diplomatic office, the lead the diplomatic office with the Secretary of State. So now waiting then the need for Duam for also sell Ambazonia as a place, say make the United States, the new US government, the new Joe Biden the government, make it see Ambazonia like the place where if they help Ambazonia for gain recognition, Ambazonia go fit provide wetin America expect them for make other country they do am because La République du Cameroon since God knows 1961 they never ever be a trusted country where they go respect human rights, the rule of law, transparency, a stable government, an accountable government, a government where go bring development, where development go bring stability, stability go create peace, peace it go create prosperity. They never ever La Republic never be trusted, right? Now with this war, La Republique they in chaos, La Republique be unstable, La Republique du Cameroon be totally it don't chakara completely. How Ambazonians the fee sell the Ambazonian case as a good opportunity for the United States of America for get a good partner for the Gulf of Guinea, for not be only for provide peace, security, and stability, but a good business partner because of Ambazonian natural resources, and it will create an environment where American company they go get better place for can do better business, and they see we as partners. They come there with all their sense, with all their money, with all their big book, with all their technology, and we will be a partner for provide them the natural resources and the environment. We will create a win-win-win-win-win situation. A win for our people, them, a win for the country of Ambazonia, a win for American company, and a win for global peace, security, and stability. Now, how the governing council of Ambazonia, the Ambazonia, with the political partners, them, within the other movements, them, now how they feel sell Ambazonia, how they feel package Ambazonia, how they feel brand Ambazonia, and sell them for the way it could be very attractive for American foreign policy.
well said. We have to prescribe and project an alternative to what has happened in the last 60 years, an alternative to the fact that um, traditionally countries that have had a certain heritage. In this example, we for Ambazonia, we get a certain British heritage without necessarily that British heritage, but the fact that we tend to respect the rule of law, the fact that we tend to have some principles the way we adhere to, the fact
Law.
that we believe in an environment where you get where we respect the political process. That one already give us a stage for which to operate. Now, you very well articulated, well said the point that I had was trying to make in this case, that we should intensify our diplomatic engagement and our diplomatic endeavors. In which case, that will come for America. The one good thing it happened for we at one time was the fact, say, this diplomat then recognize the fact, say, if he, I think na Tibo Nagi make that statement at one time where he talks, say, if he easily be a middle class country. I forget where exactly, but I think quote paraphrase say if he easily be a middle class country. So he acknowledged the fact that, especially a lot of Ambazonians, the way they don't come this country, they don't come, they enter into the middle class community, where you give the sense that if you create the right environment for production to happen, if you create the environment for the economy to flourish, if you create the right environment for the politics to happen, then the country will in effect take its place. So one of the ways we not just for intensify our diplomatic engagement, but in that regard, for providing for these individuals in the places of power, say, who get the ability for create a different environment than which don't previously exist. We get a very educated population, very highly educated population. Who get the manpower, the resources, who get the zeal for set up the environment where all those kinds of things can happen. And if given the opportunity, we will create the opportunity for those things to exist, and we will create the opportunity for American businesses to be able to come in and engage and invest in Ambazonia on an equal basis, on a fairness basis, where we can do business and understand each other on the right on the right legal basis. One of the things where you never see an influx of businesses into La Republique over the last 60 years, now the fact that they respect their own laws them in the books. If you get business operate today, the very next day, gendarme them just come some SDO they think however you wake up on the wrong side of the bed that morning, comes in and shuts it down, and not provide any explanation, and you not get no recourse. So that the the legal system for Ambazonia provides for a situation where that kind of nothing really necessarily happens. So we therefore engage diplomatically by prescribing what we are able to do, what we have the capacity to do. So with that said, I feel move to the next point where you tie to this one where in economic engagement. What people the way they did for ground zero, they get for continue for the tighten the news. This may not be the best reference, but for meaning say the economic stranglehold where they get them for La Republique need for continue. Economic stranglehold meaning say we'll continue, we'll get for restrict them for continue for the exploit or timber, we'll get for restrict them for continue for the exploit CDC or for somehow bring up CDC. And if the field maintain that oil for place where it did now, which is almost zero exploration and zero extraction, we'll get for keep that one to going. We'll get for keep goes down because that one another economic power will get down for try for restrict for their purse, their economic purse. So in that situation, when we continue for the tighten their neck that way, they'll get to a place where, Comrade Lucas, nobody has talked about this in so many regards than you have. They'll get to a certain place where themselves they will not be able for afford for continue for it'll be expensive for them for keep Ambazonia than thing where they get them from Ambazonia. So that one at the fourth
Okay.
point. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so okay. So if we understand you, the first point where you don't talk, now maybe we make sure say what people they carry on those big protests them for America. They engage. The second point, now say what diplomats them with the governing council of Ambazonia diplomatic team, with our partners them within the revolution, with other movements them, when our partners them, they create the need for rebrand, the need for become more aggressive, the need for become more aggressive, and then the branding of Ambazonia, the need for change. Number three, you don't suggest say make what people they intensify economic sabotage for La République du Cameroon, for make sure say La République nothing move even one mineral, one of what things they come out from Amazonia. That means say make we continue for hammer the shutdown of CDC. We continue for make sure say Sonara they not feel revive them, and all the place where La République they try for move petrol. We make sure say we block them completely. We not the way they move any small thing. We make sure say they not carry any one timber from Ambazonia, even cross or La République du Cameroon, and then we'll go for find an alternative market for see how all our cocoa and our coffee farmers them they fit stop for sell their coffee and what their cocoa. For La République, we open road all coffee, all cocoa may begin to go for Nigeria. So now the thing that now we don't talk. Now
Yeah.
maybe we'll ask you
One
this.
last one last point for that regards to one last
Okay.
which is the final and very important one.
Now which one you
Say
get on?
we get for, now the military will get for strengthen what defense forces their hand, because that one being the final and the most important. Without
Okay.
you comrade Lucas, you don't talk about this so many times. Without the all volunteer self defense forces and their strength, not so much movement we will see them. So we need for strengthen their hand, which means say we will need for continue for the support or intensify our support for the Ambazonian Defense Forces, for the AGOVS C team, for make sure so they strategize, and with that strength it will push, it will make all other efforts the way it happen, it will be possible. Without that self defense strength, nothing else will be possible. Sorry, go ahead.
As you sabi, say all foreign policy for the whole world. Foreign policy be based na by interest. Diplomacy be based na by interest. And at the part this way, it be very important for all we to understand. Now we the Ambazonian people, we need for sell ourselves to America and other country then. For see we as the greatest interest for them for Africa. The colonial state, it don't scatter. We not did them again. The whole world, they not like Pobia. They not one year they would name Pobia. They not one year they name Cameroon anymore. The world don't be fed up of Cameroon. The world don't be fed up of Pobia. Even France, you know one year Pobia. Even France, you know one see Pobia again. So it be to our greatest advantage, because we the one bring something where the world want them. The new world order, it look for people them. A people where they feel rise up. They show say Africa feel be different. A people there they feel rise up. They provide what the world expect from we for this generation. La République don't finish. We get the advantage of youthfulness. A young people with a young country, with a young mind, it been at the best opportunity for the world. But that opportunity, as you don't talk them, the world no go see them until we project power for ground zero. If we not project power for show the world because the world not fit come, they can support beggars for independence. You know, if it come, it talks say, oh, any people where any struggle where the wait make that the world can intervene. A struggle, any struggle. I just talk with one of our top policy advisor them today. He talks say any struggle where the people that they wait now made the international community can intervene on their behalf, that struggle they always fail. So it talks to make we warn the Ambazonian people. Just because a new president they come from America, make the Ambazonian people not fold their hand. They should on the wait. They say, oh, Biden they come. If we do them, the struggle will fail. But any struggle where the people they demonstrate their resilience, their commitment until the occupier a break. Now those people they ever be free. The world respect people the way they be determined, they be committed. The world not like lazy people. The world not like beggars. The world not like poverty. The world not like sorry heart. Sorry heart need to give people independence. For people to feel sorry for you need to give you independence. They go only talk and make the occupier. It make human rights reforms so that you be okay. As you don't talk. Now we get for project power for Ambazonia. For sure say we not only get dynamic control, but we'll get static control. And the FCC say, will it bring peace, security, and the protection of our people then? We tell them so we control territory. Until we project that army, we show say we control territory. Then we wait now for international intervention. And they go come with what you not expect them. So what you don't recommend them. You don't talk better sense for the Ambazonian people today. Say we'll get for strengthen our military. We'll get for increase our defense capability for ground zero. And that's why the plan, the stabilization plan, where Dr. Ibadan lay them out, where General F. don't send them, say they need 250 AK for put a big army. Where now you go stand for ground zero, saying that the people that control this land. Now for the American will come say, we don't get partnership. So tell we now how power and international partnership now how it work. If Ambazonia they build a powerful force, now how it go help we for draw American them. May they see we like say they fit work with we, they fit trust we, and they fit give we recognition. If we want, might just ask, I might change the question. Give we one or two things we Ambazonian people they need for doing. For gain the attention of the American and for win the hearts of America and for gain recognition from the Biden administration.
Very, very, very tough question there.
Now,
so,
you know, say me alive for ask me small question.
Comrade. So when it comes to all of these conflicts, at the end of the day, is going to be determined by the argument of force. If we would not be having this conversation if we can move our people, our all self-volunteered and self-defense forces, if we can move them into Buea or move them into Kumba or move them into Bamenda right now. So it all boils down to that. How do we do that? We are not able to do that if we cannot support them. So first of all, I would encourage, there are so many people that may be watching this all over the world that have not had the opportunity to be engaged in this struggle for liberation. So I would encourage them to visit the sites that you've posted here so many times, to see how they can, or even give you a call, give your office a call, Mr. Lucas, and look for a way that they can be engaged. because it's our understanding that there are several hundreds of thousands, if not some people have put it at 2 million Ambazonians. The CIC and our leader has asked that only 500,000 people might be needed, or 500 contributing $1,000. And that would not, the defense stabilization plan in itself is not an all end. It is a stepping stone. It is one that will make significant progress. I'm not sure how the defense people, the ADF people are looking at this, but we all know that that amount is going to make a significant dent, but it's not going to give us independence. So we have to continue to continuously be engaged financially in this regard. The one thing that is working very well in our favor is the fact that Cameroon, that La République had depended so much on Ambazonia for its economic growth in so many respects. So with us taking away that economic power over time, now they've become so powerless. Not just that, administratively, it is very difficult for them to make decisions because they are not independent by themselves. If you have to build a single kilometer of road from Buda to Bafoussam, you have to call Yaoundé. Yaoundé has to call Paris and get permission from them. Paris may then call their ambassador in Yaoundé to work with whoever that is to make sure that that gets effected. You cannot operate an administration like this. So as a result of that, it makes all of the entire government structure in La République very loose and very ineffective. So this gives us an opportunity as Ambazonians to take advantage of that all of those weaknesses. Even a contingent of La République forces that may be in Bamenda traveling to Mbengui, they so many times have to call for action, call to ask for what their mission will probably even be. So with that brings a lot of disunity. So this is an opportunity for us to engage, to strengthen our self-defense volunteers forces, so that way they can take advantage of these weaknesses and cause La République to exit. And with La République exiting, when we get them to a stage where it is bound to be a vacuum, then you would see many more engagement, and it will be an urgency at that particular point in time. Here is what I think it's Ambassador Cohen that made this statement, but I think it's an Ambassador Cohen. What he had said happened with Eritrea is the fact that when the US became the party to negotiate between the war between Eritrea and Ethiopia, then basically the Ethiopian forces did not want to die, so they ran away. So we have to put La République forces, we have to put Ekelebe them for position where they go no say this, so they go get for leave their tools or their guns and for down run. Because at that particular point, right now they beef. A lot of them are getting paid nothing. There are Ambazonians that are located outside of the country that can pay the salaries of the entire La République's Kelebes for a month. So all of them, they are not motivated. They're not a motivated force. So this gives us a lot of benefits. We should get to a point where we feel confident in ourselves going to battle, knowing that this is a winnable situation. We should not doubt ourselves. With that, when we create that vacuum, a lot of them are going to come in to see how they can address the situation.
All right. Now, make we wrap up this conversation.
Yeah.
For the place where all we did right now, we're there for a very exciting point for our war of independence. For just only small 4 years, we don't come up from people the way the world not be know about we. We don't be known people the way the world at every single international organization for the highest offices and for the world that they talk about the Ambazonian people. We don't come up with people the way, since 1961. They never ever take we serious to a people then we don't project that kind of level of power. We don't challenge La République du Cameroon. We don't battle La République du Cameroon. We don't make sure say La République du Cameroon not become economically bankrupt. They become they get political chaos. They not even govern their own country anymore. So now the generation this will get we only get only small work for doing. And that small work now for no say they say for place where they all we need for come together as a people. Regardless of the group where you think say you be there, regardless of the group, we be thinking you support the now only one mission. All our people they rise up for. They rise up for fight for the war of independence. They rise up for defend Ambazonian people them. They rise up for protect our people them. They rise up say they want freedom. They rise up. So all we now one mission will get them. All we will fight now for one with the one move ahead together. This freedom now for all we. Whether you come on for which tribe, whether you come on for which block, whether you come on for which zone. Now only one Ambazonia day. So we as a people, we need now for start for move in together. We need for start for fund this kind of project them together. 8 million Ambazonians for provide 250 AK with General F and don't ask them. Now very easy thing. We fit do them for one day. We fit do them for one day. So now the kind love for freedom this we get for show them. We don't need for show love for freedom for wait for America. We need for show our own love for freedom by our own commitment. So as you don't talk, our volunteer forces them where they sacrifice with their lives every single day and night. We need to give them what they don't ask for. That's the first thing that. Number two, all the defense groups and for ground. They need to work together because as the leader for a war of independence, they go out there for champion the cause, for raise money for this 250 AK. Now for bring all these forces them together, for give them the best training. Because now these forces then they will be the special forces within Ambazonia. Now they will be the special forces within the Ambazonia Defense Forces. Now they will be the special forces for the army of our country. All them. So all these groups they need to work together so that they find and identify those forces them within the various blocks so that they bring them together, provide this training for this big project for move Ambazonia forward. Now a collective effort. Not been an only ADF do am. ADF now the biggest, most powerful defense group for ground zero. But not been an only ye. He get the mandate for liberate Amazonia. All the forces them we need to work together. So while we raise this money for the 250 AKs, now for bring the groups and for down together, for work together, because at the end of the day, now what you do for ground zero, now go determine the kind of negotiation we will go get them. If we want to get the negotiation, we go give you independence, then we need to do that work. So I call on all the business people then for ground zero. When I reach out for the office for the leader for war of independence, when I reach out for the office, the secretariat, what phone number there for you? The leader don't elect me like the coordinator for this project. When I reach out for we. When I contact me for WhatsApp, whether you did that for ground zero or you did that for any other place of the world. You feel also go for ttof.net. Any place where you dey, go for there, go make your commitment. Now the generation this, we must finish la Republic of Cameroon. There is no alternative. The only alternative. Now only Ambazonia. The freedom, complete freedom for Ambazonian people there. Now the only thing that people they ask for. They not ask for anything else. Our boys they need to fight for anything else. Our mommy they need to die for anything else. Our papa they need to die for anything else. Our sister they need to die for anything else. Our people they need to suffer for Nigeria and all over the world for anything else. Now for a free Ambazonia. So that's why we as a people, we need for can show the Biden administration say we mean business for liberate Ambazonia. So that they take it serious too. So Chairman, I ask you, now which advice? All our mommy the way that they listen right now from ground zero, all our papa the way that they listen now right now for ground zero, all our people that they listen for ground zero. Now which advice you feel give them for encouragement, for continue the resilience, for assure them say what you they fight for. Not be only say we go get them, but it go be now the best thing will happen for every single Ambazonia. Even the one the way they don't die, for honor them, the one the way they their life, and for future generations. Now, which words of encouragement we fit give for our people them, and for assure them, say, this war of independence, it will succeed for place all day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lucas. If, if you look at what has happened, I would try to speak to the people that are all Ambazonians that are located overseas first, and then would narrow that down to Ambazonians that are located on the continent, and so on and so forth. If you look around, the egg of sea has stood the test of time. There have been all kinds of bombardments that have happened. The egg of sea has stood the test of time. The egg of sea is an institution and not an individual. And I am actually sitting here as the chairperson of the board of governors for the Amazonia Treasury, which is an independent institution, yet still a part of that institution. There hasn't been any time when we have felt that the egg of sea as an overarching institution has had any rule or has instructed us to do anything that is all that we would not normally do in the course of our activities. I am saying that to imply that as a result of that, I think that you should trust the egg of sea when they say they will do what they will do. And in that regard, if they're asking for you to make these sacrifices, it is my plea that you understand that um, your money is going to be used as it is been designed to be used. And we are today at where we are today. It is thanks to the egg of sea. If anyone argues otherwise, but without the egg of sea, we would not be where we are today. Going forward, as I did mention during this conversation, we have to continue to be engaged and engage the new administration to make sure that our plight does not fall on the side of the road. That engagement will call for us to be actively involved, and not just actively involved in the diplomatic sphere and in here overseas, especially here in the United States, but it will call for us to equally strengthen the hands of our all volunteer defense forces. That will imply that we will call upon you every so often to make your contributions. There is light at the end of the tunnel. We are at a place where we are on a one-way street. There is no going back. Think about this. Imagine, because if I were to a situation of La Republique, if this were settled such that there was just peace that was brought into the entire country, including the territory of Ambazonia, they will strengthen all their defenses to make sure that this never happened again ever. And you know
Eh,
what that means. So
yeah.
we are at a situation where we are on a one-way street to freedom. There is no going back. There is no looking back, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we are very close. I equally want to speak to our people that are on ground zero and on ground one that have so far really endured. We that are located here, we can't really complain about anything. But if we are looking like really deep and seeing you in the bushes, we see what you've endured. We see the hunger. We see the kids that have died because they did not have food. We see those that have been killed by La République du Cameroon's military. We see those that have been strangled. But we are asking you to just hang in there. Just hold on just for a little while. Just hold on. Keep doing what you're doing. You've been doing just great. And with the ghost towns that are on the country Sunday, please just continue doing those. There is light at the end of the tunnel. So together, when we put all these activities and come before you, we know that the days ahead might just be difficult, but we would rise again like the phoenix and prove to the rest of the world that Ambazonia has risen from where it was supposed to be and has created that nation that has become or will become the envy of the world. We would make sure that we seek to enforce the democratic principles that we've learned from countries like the United States. We would make sure that we ensure to you and your children and your grandchildren and the children that are yet to be born an environment where they can flourish and be who they want to be. We would make sure that everyone that seek to go to the hospital has that available to them and cannot be left in the gutter to die. We would make sure that we create an environment for which political pluralism and the respect of every individual in that environment can be possible. We would make sure that our children are educated in such a way that they become assets to their communities. I'll give an example. We would identify the various needs of the various communities and educate our kids so that way they go out there into the world and fulfill those needs and make the environment a better one for all of us to live in. So please hang in there. We're going to make sure that for all of our leaders that are out here, that we continue to push them. That way they can respect all of these engagements that they've made and give to us the promise that we seek for Ambazonia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My fellow Ambazonians, this one, now our big brother for that side for Joe Biden and Donald Trump, a country. Now our big brother, Brother Emmamnuel. Now he be the chairman for what they call and say Ambazonia cryptocurrency, what they call and say Ambacoin. So big brother, we thank you plenty. Say you take the time for can join me for this talk, for explore, for look into how the Joe Biden, a foreign policy, it go help the Ambazonian people for their recognition. So the story for today, we hope say it help our people, they may they understand how these things they go work. And at the end of the day, not be foreign policy, not something where you get for control how it work for you. Not be something where other people they control how it go work for you. And as they talk this way, we don't come for can conclude them. Saying that the Ambazonian people, they get for raise themselves, project themselves, market themselves, sell themselves for become an attractive environment, an attractive partner for United States of America, for recognize we, and for the negotiations for favor we, for America, for back Ambazonia, because it will be a win-win situation for both America and Ambazonia, because we also practice the same thing the way the American people that they practice them. We practice those things then. So, la Republic, it don't finish. Now, Ambazonia, it's time for rise. So, big brother Emmamnuel, we want to thank you so much for this time we don't take them, for can educate our people them, for can get this conversation with our people them, for can get this story, because the energy we bring and the level of expertise, me I not be even know say, they say, oh, which you don't talk, you go inside deep. I say, that's why I take my hand, I say, hey, I say, big brother, yeah, I be think say you be only financial people man way, you know what the stock market and now for make money, make it grow. I don't know, say you also be man of political, how they call them, the Tapanga will call and say political brouhaha. We not be no say you be man of diplomatic brouhaha and foreign policy big man. So we thank you for the discussion. We look forward for many more visits. For say we'll continue to get different kind of discussion then. We thank you plenty. So thank you. Say you take the time for joining me today.
Thank you very much, comrade. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been an honor for me to be here.
All right. We don't come for the end of our show. So now the time we will guess it don't talk say bye-bye. Make a wrap up the show. So my fellow Ambazonians, now the story this way we don't get them. Big story. All we know place where we dey. All we don't know how diplomacy they work. As our policy chief advisor, he talk for we. He talk say they say a foreign policy, a struggle with the people that it depend for the world, maybe it can't intervene for help them. That struggle they fail. A struggle with the world, they project themselves for become very powerful so that the world respect them and then they recognize them. Now those struggle that they always win. And the struggle this, now the path that we the Ambazonian people them, we take them. We take now the path for make Ambazonia powerful, for make our defense forces them powerful. Because without a powerful defense force, diplomacy, it did like toilet paper where they don't take them. Where you don't, it did like toilet paper where you go shit, you take and you wipe your last. It be useless. Make I talk them again. Diplomacy without a powerful defense force, it did like toilet paper where they don't take and they wipe last. It be useless. That's why our defense forces now the primary pillar for guarantee the Ambazonian people their independence. That's why this project will be very important. The defense stabilization plan. On Friday, the leader of our war of independence, he go the come out. I think Friday or Saturday, we'll put out the information for now. Friday or Saturday, the leader of our War of Independence, he will come out for talk for people then for ground zero about the defense plan. Which it be why it designed block by block. Why they will decide for engage self-defense. Which it be the strategy for self-defense. What people need for hear from the master strategist himself. So that we understand the confidence. We get the confidence and the belief. And he go tell we, who's our day and why it be important for we for finish this game. And what we need for do them. As our brother Emmamnuel don't tell we, what the Ambazonia people need for do them. For gain recognition from the American people them. That is to read this for today. Self-defense. Now I hold them. So, when I get my phone number, when I send me message for Facebook, when I send me message for WhatsApp, every businessman for ground zero, when I contact we, when I make our own commitment as well. And all man for diaspora. Now when I time this, for make ground zero may be proud. When I go for ttof.net, when I go make our commitment for day, and then when I reach out for we, also, the leader be open for reach out to every Ambazonia community. Whether you're doing that for Germany or for France. When I mobilize on ourselves, as long as when I feel come together, the leader go like for address the various Ambazonian communities them. Whether when I there for ground one, or when I there for Ghana, or when I there for Morocco, or when I there for China. When I mobilize on ourselves, when I come together, the leader would like to address una for Zoom. Because now, because of coronavirus, the leader not fit travel. When I know say it be like for the travel for go across the globe, mobilize our people them, and also for raise funds for the forces. When I don't see what he put them for ground zero, the leader don't promise say it would declassify some picture them, and also some diplomatic engagement them. It would declassify some things them for tell our people them, and show say they say the work way the work na 24/7, and it be guarantee for produce independence and freedom for our people them. For all our mammy them, where they don't over suffer because of this war. For all our people where they don't over suffer for this war. When I know say they say the freedom of Ambazonia, now we have freedom. It will be that the freedom we go bring our mammy them joy and happiness. Our mammy they get better hospital, our people they go for better school, our mammy they get better water for drink, our mammy they get better road them. Because the plan where they get them for Ambazonia. And so every village to Ambazonia, it will be tarred. All village to Ambazonia will get better road. All village to Ambazonia will get drinking water. All village and town from Ambazonia, it will get light. Where people they will get the best hospital, where people they don't over suffer, and the team will feel gear for them. For post-Ambazonian independence. I say that for give our people them a quality of life that no other people for Africa. And they promise this. I promise this. Una get a good night. As always, we love una plenty. May God bless una and may God keep una safe. Una good night.